Paige and I'm a 22-year-old office employee. I just graduated from college and I'm a new hire at the company, so I'm working really hard to learn how to do my job here. Hey, Paige, you can go ahead to your lunch break now. This is my senior colleague and manager, Miss Melanie. She's the most beautiful woman in the company, and she's also calm and really kind. Yes, I'll be taking my lunch break now. Paige and also Stephen, you're both brilliant. We've got some great new hires here. The Stephen that Miss Melanie is speaking of was a male employee who entered the company at the same time as me. When I grabbed my lunch and headed towards the break room...
Omurice!
Oh, there he is. This person here is Stephen. He's 30 years old, really good looking, and he graduated from a famous university. Ever since the first day he entered the company, all of the female employees were fawning over him. Hey, Stephen! Wait, Stephen, you're putting mayonnaise on the lunch that you bought at the convenience store again. Did you get omurice today? Does mayonnaise even go well with omurice?
Well, people are usually shocked by it, even though I think it's pretty delicious.
I see how you carry your own mini mayonnaise bags that you've brought with you. You're always singing songs and changing the lyrics to mayonnaise, love. So I know how much you love mayonnaise. But mayonnaise has a lot of calories in it, so, you should be more careful not to eat too much.
You're right. I'll be careful. What about you, Paige? What's your lunch? That looks delicious. Is that meatloaf? Did you make it yourself?
Yes, it's actually a tofu meatloaf.
If it's not too much trouble, of course I'll pay you money, but would it be too much to ask you to make me a lunch next time?
What? Sure, that's fine, but you don't need to pay me.
No, that would be too much to ask otherwise.
Well then, you can treat me to one pudding from the convenience store.
Wow, thank you so much.
That, and please promise me that you won't be putting a lot of mayonnaise on the lunches I make you too.
Of course.
As you can see, I have kind managers and some fun colleagues in the workplace. But there was one person who was a little bit of a pain. I finished eating my lunch, and when I got back to the office... Hey, Melanie! How long is it gonna take you to finish that? The person yelling at Miss Melanie right now is Karen. Karen is also my senior colleague in the office, But if we don't finish this first before that job, then it's going to cause trouble to the clients and... Excuse me! You still haven't finished that one either? Unbelievable. But both of them were assignments that I was told to finish by tomorrow, so... I'm pretty sure that Karen is just jealous of Miss Melanie. After all, Miss Melanie is the most beautiful person in the company, and she also has a great personality, so a lot of people look up to her. And more than anything, the number one reason for her jealousy is probably because people are saying that Miss Melanie and Stephen would be a good match. The first day that Stephen and I entered this office, Karen took one look at Stephen and her eyes had turned into hearts at how handsome he is. Even after that, every now and then I would see Karen find any excuse to go over to Stephen's desk. Well, although in reality, Stephen and Miss Melanie aren't actually dating. You're always flirting with the male employees, so you must think that they'll forgive you if you're a little bit late on the work deadlines, don't you? I would never think such a thing. I can see right through you. You're quite the little brat, aren't you? Ugh, the jealousy is hard to watch. All right, I should go in and save Miss Melanie. Even if the department manager and the division manager yell at her not to get involved with Miss Melanie, Karen is the type to throw a tantrum in response. But I couldn't just stand back and watch. But it was at that moment.
Here, Miss Karen, please, have this coffee.
Aw, Stephen! In an instant, Karen's eyes turned into hearts again. Stephen lured her away like a monkey, and Karen went back to her own desk. The office became quiet again, and I was relieved that Miss Melanie was freed of Karen's harassment. However, not long after that, Miss Melanie took an extended leave from the company. I was worried, but perhaps because of the verbal abuse from Karen and the stress built up from that? That's what I was thinking. So as I was pouring myself a coffee in the break room when...
Great work today, Paige.
Stephen came in holding a coffee cup.
Once again, thank you so much for the lunch the other day. If it's not too much trouble, I was wondering if I can request another lunch by you again?
Sure thing. But in exchange for that, it'll be another pudding, okay?
Yes! Of course!
From that day forward, I started making a lunch for Stephen fairly often, but then It turns out to Karen, it looked like Stephen and I had suddenly become closer, and her harassment had redirected from Melanie and onto me. Miss Paige, what is wrong with you? Out of nowhere, Karen started yelling at me with extreme aggression. What? Don't what at me. You still haven't finished those materials? This is all material that just needs to be finished by the end of the day, and don't make excuses. Stop flirting with Stephen and even making him lunches. You're so desperate to get his attention that your working speed is slowed down, you know? Don't bring your personal desires into the workplace. Just because you're a new hire, you'd better not get carried away. You're slow at work. You make a lot of mistakes. You're causing a lot of trouble. Oh, well, I already predicted that this was going to happen since I spend a lot of time with Stephen these days, but I stared straight back at Karen as I responded like this. Huh? I'm not flirting with anyone at all, and I believe I've been turning in all of my work within the deadlines. Getting carried away because I'm a new hire? That's the first time I've heard this. But has anyone else said anything? If there's anyone here with complaints, please do send them my way. What? And also, have I made any mistakes? Can you please tell me clearly when and where I made a mistake? I don't have any recollection. One last thing about bringing in personal desires to the workplace. Wouldn't that be yourself, Miss Karen? Unlike Miss Melanie, I didn't budge at all, and Karen seemed pretty taken aback and irritated by it. Not only that, but some of the other female employees that heard me as well as some of the male employees were giggling around us. Ugh. Karen was huffing and puffing as she stormed back to her desk. That day, at night, I finished up my work, and as I left the office, Stephen called over to me.
Hey, Paige. When I was leaving the office, I saw that you were getting ready to leave too, so I was waiting for you. Let's go get that pudding.
What? Right now?
I actually know a place that sells delicious pudding. Do you have any plans right now?
Well, I guess I have nothing to do even if I go home, so I decided to go with Stephen to the place that he says has delicious pudding. At the cake shop that we arrived to, there was an option to eat in, so we decided to sit and have the pudding together before going home.
By the way, I saw Miss Karen saying all kinds of things to you today, but, were you okay?
It turns out that Stephen was trying to save me from Karen's harassment at that time, but before he could get there, I'd already bitten back and I shocked him instead. Oh, I'm totally fine. I can easily ignore things like that anyway. I don't think of it as anything more than background noises. Stephen's eyes opened wide for a moment and he started laughing.
Paige, you've got a pretty sharp tongue, don't you? The first time I met you, I thought you were petite and reserved, but you do your work powerfully. But at the same time, you're also the domestic type, and I thought that you were always polite, but you've got a sharp tongue.
I suppose I'll take that as a compliment.
Yes, of course.
After that, Stephen and I spoke about the company for a little bit, and then I went home. The next week. During that time, I actively accepted all kinds of work, and with permission from my boss, I was working a lot more overtime. I wanted to get used to the work more quickly so that I could be useful to the company. On that day, I was the last person left in the office. I went to use the restroom before leaving for the day, so I left my things at my desk. And when I went to put my hand on the bathroom door, Gah! I was suddenly pushed from behind and I stumbled and fell into the women's toilet. When I turned around, I was so shocked to see Karen standing there in casual clothing. And for some reason, she was holding mayonnaise? Miss Karen! I had questions for why she was here, but it must have been her that just pushed me from behind, just as I was about to yell at her. I heard from some people that you were going to be the last one in the office today, so I decided to come and see you. Huh? Not only are you flirting with Stephen, how dare you go against me, your senior colleague? You're going to know your place. Take that! What? All of a sudden, while spraying me with mayonnaise, Karen started to attack me. I immediately ran into the closet bathroom, and I closed the door and locked it. Open up! And now that you're going home as the laughingstock of the train, in your suit covered in mayonnaise. Karen kept knocking on the door. There must be something wrong with her in the head? Please stop! Throwing mayonnaise on somebody, that counts as assault, and that's a crime, you know? That's why I'm doing it in the toilet where there are no security cameras. I see. That's true, there were no security cameras. Not only that, but my cell phone was in my bag at the desk. Am I being pushed onto the edge right now? I started to go into a panic. But I could never have imagined that immediately after this, Karen was about to get kicked down to the bottom of hell. It really makes me laugh. Well then, I was in the toilet, cornered by her. You can't run away anymore. When I heard Karen's voice and looked up, she must have used the ladder that was nearby the entrance. I saw her face peering at me from above the door. Ugh! I rushed to unlock the bathroom stall door, and I ran straight to the bathroom door to escape. However, ow! When I got to the exit, I tripped on the step to get into the restroom and I slid head first across the floor. I looked back in that position and I saw Karen walking towards me, so she sprayed more mayonnaise all over me. Help me! I tightly squeezed both eyes shut when, at that moment, I suddenly felt my body float into the air. What? Before I could see anything, Karen raised her voice. When I opened my eyes, to my disbelief, Stephen was there. And that Stephen was holding me like a princess in his arms. Why was Stephen here? But wait, holding me in his arms like this? What on earth is going on? He must have covered for me quickly because on top of Stephen's head was a blob of mayonnaise that Karen must have dumped on him. Hey! Why the hell are you being held in Stephen's arms right now? No fair! Ignoring Karen's whining, Stephen slowly lowered me down feet first onto the ground. And then...
Miss Karen, can you please explain this?
When she was confronted by Stephen, Karen had cold sweat streaming down her face. And then, as she was standing there shaking, Stephen slowly got closer to Karen, but...
Miss Karen, please, tell me honestly what happened. I'm sure there was a reason behind this. No matter what you say, I promise I won't get mad.
And then... Now Karen had started crying. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry. Just please tell me, at your own pace.
Stephen! After taking a large sniffle with her nose. I was so jealous of Paige, who got along with you so well. So I just wanted to make her feel pain somehow. So I tried to do the same thing I did with Melanie, thinking that then she would get away from you for a little bit.
The same thing as Miss Melanie?
That girl, everyone called her beautiful and cute, so I never liked her, but then everyone started saying what a good match she would be for you. And I got even more furious, and then I dumped a bucket of water on her in the bathroom. But listen, now I do think it was a terrible thing to do. I didn't think it would stress her so much to the point where she would have to stay home from work. And as soon as Karen said that, it was at that moment.
And thank you very much.
Huh? Suddenly, Stephen raised his voice, and he pulled out his cell phone from his pocket.
Recording complete.
What? Recording? Karen looked like she couldn't grasp what was going on.
You feel bad about Miss Paige, you said? But you weren't trying to do the exact same thing to Paige this time? It seems that you're not the type of person who can learn a lesson on your own. So let's go to the right place together now.
As he said that, Stephen did tap a few numbers on his phone and then said,
Yes, Mr. Policeman? Please, come here as soon as possible.
Policeman? You're joking, right? Because just now, you said you wouldn't get mad at me.
I'm not mad, though. But you assaulted me with mayonnaise. So all I did was report that.
The police? I don't want that. Forgive me.
Nah, this isn't about forgiveness. Sooner or later, you were bound to be arrested anyway.
What?
I have a voice recording of your confession earlier, too. Anytime you were doing anything that could count as criminal activity towards Miss Melanie, you were doing it all in the toilets, weren't you? Miss Melanie didn't know what to do, because there was no evidence, so she couldn't file a report. Today, I heard that Paige was going to be the last one in the office alone, and I knew she was in danger if you showed up. So I stayed camped out within the offices. And it was just as predicted, wasn't it? So I can tell you now, actually, it was sent to this company for an internal investigation.
Internal investigation?
Well, Miss Melanie's case was actually given to me after, as an addition. But after I restored some of the files that used to be on your computer, Miss Karen, within those restored files, I was able to confirm information relating to the embezzlement of business trip expenses. Other than that, we also found your fingerprints in the auditing agency, and we discovered quotations on your computer that had multiple suspicious points, as well as fake quotations. So I investigated the details. We now have proof that the numbers and dollar amounts were tampered with. So you know we've discovered your embezzlement of company investments already?
What? Karen's face instantly turned completely pale.
It was embezzlement of a ridiculous amount. So the CEO said he's planning on turning you into the police.
That was when we could hear the sound of police sirens approaching. Karen's shoulders sank as she stood there defeated. Shortly after that, Karen was arrested by the police. She must have given in already because she confessed to the embezzling, the assault on Stephen, the harassment of Miss Melanie, and me, along with multiple other offenses. Apparently, she was sent behind bars. Not long after, Karen's parents came to the company to apologize, and they came to hand Stephen and Miss Melanie settlement fees. But according to what they said, apparently Karen was crying every day in prison. When her parents went to visit her, she said, "I never thought things would end up like this, that's why I did it." And she was saying similar things to what she said to Stephen that day. It shouldn't be, "I shouldn't have done this if it was going to end up like this." It's a given from the beginning that one shouldn't do anything that troubles others, and that's clearly not right. Without even understanding that, it must mean that she doesn't actually regret what she's done for the right reasons. Let's have her really think about what she's done, while spending some time in the cages. Well then, on the other hand, as for me, with Karen gone and Miss Melanie back after a long hiatus, my life is the best and fulfilling every day. That reminds me, the other day on the weekend I was invited out by Stephen and we went back to the cake shop, but it's been about 2 weeks now since you finished the internal investigation and left the company, right?
Yes, there was something I wanted to ask you, Paige.
Me? What is it?
Did you hate it when I picked you up into my arms that day?
What? No, I didn't hate it, but...
I'm glad. I have to tell you that I like you, Paige.
What?
If not, I wouldn't have picked you up like a princess like that. So if you'd like, will you please consider going out with me?
I was officially asked out by Stephen and we became a couple. In the beginning, I never could have imagined that he was there for an internal investigation, and I definitely never imagined that we would become boyfriend and girlfriend, but I'm the happiest I've ever been right now. Thank you for watching! What kind of crazy people will we get to see next? Stay tuned for more!